If I reminded you that you are perfect, would you argue me down or step into your perfection? Welcome to Perfect Mode, where there are no excuses, no expectations, and we explore the world without limitations. I'm JClay, rapper and spiritual teacher, with my co-host Troy Washington, your friendly neighborhood realtor. Let's be real, so let's be perfect. Perfect! Everything, anything, plenty things, perfect. Everything, anything, plenty things, perfect mode. Everything, anything, plenty things, perfect mode. Everything, anything, plenty things, perfect mode. Perfect mode, perfect mode, perfect mode, perfect mode, perfect mode, perfect mode, perfect mode. Everything, anything, plenty things, perfect mode, perfect mode. Everything, anything, plenty things, perfect mode.
Perfect.
What up? Welcome to Perfect Mode. Welcome to Perfect Mode. And first off, let me start by telling y'all that we love y'all. We're grateful for the opportunity to be anywhere, sharing our thoughts, hopefully, and helping you realize that you are perfect. And the reason why I can say that unapologetically is because I know that you are you. You are one of one. You cannot be duplicated, replicated. And the only reason, and I mean the only reason you will think that you are not perfect is if you're looking at this person on the side of you and saying, I'm not them. But guess what? You are you, and that's all you need. And of course, it's yours truly, Troy Washington, your friendly neighborhood realtor. And I have my boy JClay, spiritual rapper and teacher. And we're about to jump on here and talk about it. You know what? But how did you know? How did you know, Jay? What up, Jay?
How? What up? Happy day, happy Sunday, happy beautiful Sunday on this perfect day. It's the perfect day for this topic, perfect day for all of this. Feeling good. Hopefully everyone is feeling good in perfect land. And shout out to just everybody, that join us from week to week, every Sunday at noon Central Time. And yeah, hit that share button as always, because this is going to be an enlightful conversation. And check out our Patreon. It's in the link, one of them places down there, up there, and support your boys. And yeah, let's jump right in.
So of course, a million things go through my mind, but how did you know? Because how did you know? But I want to know, what were your thoughts with this topic when you first saw it?
Yeah, so how, I don't even know if how was the right word, but it's more like, okay, we know things, right? There are things we know, but there's also things that we're taught that other people know, but we don't accept it as knowledge. Like, we're like, I don't know about that. But the things we know, we go full force on because we know it. And it's almost like, how do we know that so that we could reverse engineer it to know the things that we want to know? Like, we want to know that we're confident. We want to know that we're happy and joyful. We want to know that we can do anything we set our minds to. And it's like, how can we use what we know to shift that knowingness to the things that we want to know? That's not necessarily knowledge based as far as information, but like qualities. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So, the funniest thing about just this whole intro of it, the thing that comes to my mind, and I know that you felt this before, is that somebody have come to you and told you something about yourself that you might have had an inkling about, but you was like, for real? And you kind of have this moment of reflection of trying to realize what they're talking about. Like, well, how did you even see that in me? Where did you see me? When did I ever do something? And you would even sometimes go as far as to tell people such and such said this about me. What you think about that? The crazy thing is, again, just trying to do what you said, realize something that the reality is you always know these things anyway. Yeah. Like I said, it's been times where somebody came and told me something about myself, and it's somewhere in the back of my mind it's just been kind of dwelling, and I never wanted to own up to it because either I didn't believe it, I didn't know how to make it true, or whatever the case be. But I'm with you though. Go ahead, Jay.
Yeah, and it's amazing because, like, if we really think about the things that we know or we wholeheartedly accept as truth, we go full-fledged in it. We go full-fledged on it. Like, I always bring up when I was little in Santa Claus, I knew Santa Claus was real, and nothing was going to stop me from getting presents from Santa Claus. Like, nothing. And then when I didn't know Santa Claus was real, I knew Santa Claus wasn't real, and nothing was going to stop me from getting presents from my parents. Like, it just, but in both cases, even though the object of my knowledge, of my knowing changed, that core essence didn't, and it ordered my steps in such a way that I was still able to go forth in the way that I wanted to. But again, it's just a matter of knowledge. It's just a matter of knowing with everything. And is how do we hack into that?
And so funny thing about the whole presence thing, the real thing, I guess, in a sense, was the presence. It wasn't neither Santa Claus nor not Santa Claus. But I think the thing that I think the question that we're asking then is, how do you? I had it on the tip of my tongue, man.
Yeah.
Like I know it's not how did you know. It's more of how do you make it real? I guess in a sense. I mean, you know, how do you make? Oh, go ahead.
Well, so it's a slight difference, because how do you make it real? You're already accepting that it's not real, and I have to make it real. But with knowing, like, you don't even think about, like, the stuff you know. You don't think about it. You don't question it. You wouldn't debate it with anybody. You would just, you just step into it. I mean, sometimes it might come from practice. It could come from others, like you said, telling you something about yourself, and enough people said it that now you believe it and you know it. But do you know it? You know, like, there's a difference between belief and knowing.
I think that we like to operate in the space of doubt, so that way we can have the sense of overcoming things. I think that's a big part of this whole thing too, because again, I've had somebody come and tell me something about myself that I think I know, and I want to believe that it to be true, but then I'm also like in an aha moment, like, oh really? And it I guess the craziest part about it is my steps are stunted, because what you're saying is if you 100% wholeheartedly believe something, you kind of just walk into it. Like, I'm gonna go get a cup of water. I know that the water's there, and if for whatever reason the water's not there when I get there, I'm gonna be like, oh my God. But it's like I'm like, oh my God, before I even give my chance a self a chance to go and walk, to go do whatever it is that I'm saying. And you know, it's been plenty of times where somebody's told me that I was a music genius, right? And I was like, really? you can make, but though I've been making music my entire life, they've seen me make music. I've seen myself make music. There's still a level of doubt, which in sense it hinders me from moving or going as far as I want to in the realm that I want to go in. But go ahead, Jay.
Yeah. Like, so check this out. Like, today, when I was playing basketball, the first game I played, like, I just wasn't missing. It was like a quick little 2-on-2 warm up. I was hitting everything, which was cool. But then the second game, we playing 5-on-5, and my team, it had a lot of better shooters than me. But for whatever reason, like, people weren't really shooting and stuff. So I stepped into it knowing, like, you know what? I'm the man on this team. And I just started doing stuff. I was missing. But from me doing that, it clicked for them, like, no, I'm the man on this team. And then all the people who normally hit the threes, when they got it, they were making it. And I say that to say that, like, even if you miss your shots in stepping into your knowing, like, there's something magical about just knowing. Like, I didn't even question it. I didn't question, like, will they think I'm the man? Will they respect me if I admit? Like, none of that was in my head. It was just like, I'm the man in this moment. Give me the ball. And now I'm kind of answering my question, because, like, there was really no thought into it except just step into that awareness. And I guess maybe is that the key, like, knowing which awareness to step into?
So no. So okay. So this is what comes to my head too when I think about the family dynamic, right? So for anybody that's listening to this for the first time, of course, I'm married, and I have 2 kids. I have a 12-year-old and 6-year-old. And there's this dynamic. You don't even have to have kids in order to know this. If you were a kid at some point and you had family in your house, there's a family dynamic that people kind of exude. And I'm just going to throw on the father hat real quick, right? There was never a time where we sat down in our house and said, whenever dad said something, this is the way that it have to be. And whenever mom said something, we just, that's never been a thing that has ever happened in my house, right? Nor did it happen when I grew up, because my dad wasn't necessarily there. I didn't grow up with my dad in the house. But the funniest thing is, regardless if I grew up in the house with my dad there or not, my dad owned the fact that he was a father. Like, I'm a daddy. This is who I am. And my mom, in turn, owned the fact that she was the nurturer. You know what I mean? It's just kind of how things go. And there was always this sense of, whenever I went around my dad, the amount of reverence that I had from him was more like I better be careful with what I'm doing, right? And so when I think about that in my own house, again, Charnay disciplines the kids just like I discipline the kids, right? She's a nurturer more than me, of course, because I'm always going to give that more of a tough approach to things to toughen them up. But nonetheless, whenever things go wrong, because I'm wearing the father, I'm the dad, they have that sense of reverence that I had for my dad. Like, oh man, I better not mess up with him. Or when he said something, I better be quiet about that. And you're right. There is a power in owning whatever your essence is, whether it's on a basketball court, whether it's in the house. It helps everybody else set into the dynamic that they feel like they want to be in as well. Go ahead, Jay.
Yeah. I'm laughing because that was definitely apparent in my household. My mom might say something, but why? What your mother say? And then I shut up. but even like I've seen moms step into that. You know what I mean? Like,
real talk though.
And so we all possess that quality. Even as kids, we've stepped into that at certain points, and it's almost like, what is that? It's like you're so sure of yourself that nothing else can stand opposing to it. Like, it's just like, this is how it is. I'm here. And again, like if we think about it, that's the key to everything we want to do, is just having that no nonsense truth about it or knowledge about it. Like even if things don't go according to plan, that shouldn't change how you feel about it. That shouldn't change your knowledge. Like, no, I know that I'm going to do this.
Now, and I'll tell you one other thing before we actually get into the how do you do that or how did you do that, is that sense of walking into a room full of people that you don't know. And again, I know I've actually been with you when I've experienced it before as well. There was this one time we were at TCC. We were at a convention for childhood development. Shouts out to him, Lau. Appreciate you joining us today. Yeah. And we were at a college, and this woman walks in that was going to speak to us. Now, at the time, I don't think that we knew she was going to speak to us, but she walked in and she commanded a presence. She commanded an attention. And it's kind of like we were all kind of glued to her, looking at her the entire time when she was getting prepared or whatever. And then the moment she started to speak, it really didn't matter what she said. She could have said boogie, 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 right? But we literally were believers in whoever this is coming to speak is the speaker, right? And I've been at places before when somebody came in and I didn't feel the same. And I think that's attributed to that person owning their space, owning that aura, owning that. And that's what I think that we're talking about when we say, how do you know, or how did you know, is that whenever you decide to take a step, are you walking like, this step is my step, no matter what it is? And, you know, it's a tricky thing, especially when you're traveling down a path that you've never traveled down before. Go ahead, Jay.
Yeah. And we actually see it. I mean, we're in hip hop music. Like, we see it in hip hop all the time, where the lyrics might not be that strong of lyrics, but the person saying it, they have that knowing, they have that command. Like, I'm it. Whatever I'm saying goes. And the line could be the corniest line if you just took it and just wrote it down. But because they said it with such reverence, it's just like, yeah, they commanded that attention. And again, it didn't matter what they said. You just listen.
Bro, no lie. There's a new, I don't want to even say that he's a new artist. There's an artist that I just found out about. His name is LaRussell. And he's from California, like the Bay and stuff, right?
Yeah.
And the funniest thing was, I came across him on a TikTok clip, and when I saw him, I made a judgment. Of course, I looked at him and I'm like, he looked goofy. You know what I mean? It's just kind of one of those things. And then I heard him, and I was like, man. Now the funniest part about it is, he doesn't necessarily have what I feel like is a strong voice. You know what I mean? Like he has one of those like DJ Quick voices or something, chilling at the crib, like that, right? But the thing is, to your point, the way it comes out of him is like, I own this. And so I literally became a fan of his just that fast because he's acting like he knows that I'm his fan. You know what I'm saying? I feel like he knows that I'm his fan. And to the point that we're making, like, it doesn't matter what somebody might perceive or what you think people perceive, because a part of us not, acting like we know or stepping into things the way that we feel like we should step into them is what we perceive other people might think. But it's not doing it in the sense of being beneficial to us. Like, I literally think that he thinks that whoever listens to me is my fan, no matter what.
Yeah.
And I think that's a stark difference in, trying to get over that hump or not. Go ahead, Jay.
Yeah, Napoleon Hill, he's the author of like Think and Grow Rich and other things. He studied successful people. He had a book called Law of Success, and one of the chapters was called Enthusiasm. And he devoted a lot to enthusiasm and saying that anybody who wants to be a speaker in any way or a seller of anything, you have to have enthusiasm when you speak. And I think that's one of the key things too that we're touching on, that even that rapper has, that all rappers should have. Even us, if we came on here, like you got to be confident about what you do and you got to be strong in it. Like, even though I'm saying things that are true, nobody would listen. Nobody would even care because I'm not speaking with enthusiasm. And so in some instances, well, really in all instances, it's more about the energy than it is even what you're saying. It's more about that resonance or that vibration that you're bringing out more than the actual terms you're speaking.
Now, I want to add something to that, because I'm what I consider a loud talker. You know what I'm saying? Some people say that I'm aggressive when I talk.
Yeah.
But I don't want it to be misconstrued, because I have a 6-year-old, right? And he kind of has somewhat of a shy approach. You know what I mean? Like, Brody is not like aggressive like me. But the beauty of it is, when he talks, it's not even more about the enthusiasm of it. It's about the love in his words, I guess I should say. Because when he says he likes basketball or he does this and he does that, there is a bit of excitement, but there's also a sincere touch to it. You know what I mean? Like, and to the point where when he does, like, you will wonder why everybody is just kind of paying attention to this kid all the time, is because he means what he says and he says what he means. And he doesn't doubt in his words no matter how he says it. And so I think there's an air of confidence, whether you are, extra like me when it comes to, being aggressive with your speech or loud or, things like that. But when you have a level of confidence and really mean, like I told you, he tells me all the time he can beat me in basketball. And I'm like, bruh, you can't beat me in basketball. I'm bigger than you. I'm older than you. But in his mind, because I haven't played him until I beat him, he like, trust me, man. Trust me, I can beat you. Go ahead, Jay.
Yeah. To that, there's something in speaking when you have something to say. Like, we've all been around people who speak just for the sake of speaking, and they might not realize it, but the seeds that they're sowing are, their word isn't as powerful as it could be. So like you said with your son, like when he speaks, people listen because, he doesn't speak that often. And when he does, he really has something to say. He has something with meaning to it. And sometimes when people just, I don't want to say waste words, because there's no real such thing as wasting words. But when you knowingly speak without the power behind it or without the true conviction of it, you lessen the power of your words, so that in the Bible, there's a quote, you can say to the mountain, move, and the mountain will move. It will obey if you have that much faith in what you're speaking. And sometimes, and I think enough of us don't always speak with faith all the time. And I'm guilty of that too, or I have been guilty of that. And after this episode, a change will be made.
And so, I guess that's kind of where we get to. How do you even get to that? A lot of people might say, and again, I always like to use my kids as an example. With TJ, when we get into a game, I tell him just go have fun and play because we've done all the work. So he can go out and play with the amount of confidence I would hope that he needs in order to be successful. But a lot of times we don't get to walk around, and I mean you could, but I mean most people don't walk around experiencing new things and practicing them before they got them because it wouldn't necessarily be a new thing, or stepping into a new arena if you had never been there before, because how do you practice that? And I think that one of the first steps is also starting to build up that self-confidence in yourself and letting yourself know that anything is possible, because I think that a lot of times when we, walk a path that we've never walked before, step into an arena that we've never been in before, the first thought that comes across our mind is, man, this is going to be hard. This is going to be challenging. I don't know if I can do this. All of these self-talk things that we've been practicing that more than we've been practicing the confidence talk things. And it puts us behind the ball when we step into something new. Go ahead, Jay.
Yeah, and to your point, we really can't be afraid to step into situations we've never been in before. Fortunately, I've had many experiences with that growing up against my will. I didn't want to be in these situations, but fortunately, my parents are like, "Nah, you gonna do this. You gonna experience this." And in those moments, you learn a lot about yourself, because like you'll find yourself in an environment where you don't know anybody, and all of them know each other, and it's like, okay, how I'm gonna navigate this? How am I gonna express myself? How I'm gonna just do these things? And you learn. It's practice, and you find out like, oh, okay, I'm better than I thought I was. I'm smarter than I thought. Like it's those experiences that give us the experience to really experience who we are. And without them, we would just be stuck in our head all the time.
The thing that comes to my mind is not worrying about the outcome, right? Not worrying about what the outcome is going to be. I don't know if you remember this. When we were younger, we went on a trip to Louisiana. And when we were on our way back, we were trying to get back because when I was dating at the time, the girl I was dating wanted to try out to be in a play. And on our way back, we were going to get back just in enough time so that way she can try to audition for this play. And she was afraid to do it. And so I was like, well, shoot, I'll just go audition with you as well. But I wasn't trying to get in the play. I didn't care about the outcome of what was going to go down, right? But I kind of did it so that way she could have the courage to go and do it herself. And funny enough, we go and try out that morning, and I make the play. Like, and I had to literally turn them down, and they were mad at me, like, why did you even come and audition for this if you weren't trying to get it? And I told him why I did, and they was like, okay, well, that's cool, but dang, that's messed up. Now, the crazy thing is, she didn't make the play. But I think that a part of that was because she was so focused on the outcome not being what she thought it was going to be, it hindered her performance. I had no expectation at all, besides just to see if I can get a rise out of the people, right? It was just kind of free. And I think that, you can say that it was a natural talent or anything like that, but I honestly think that it's just because I wasn't afraid of not being able to get it. Go ahead, Jay.
Yeah, I love that, because it's true. Like when we aren't afraid of the outcome, we can have fun with it. We can try things we've never tried because it doesn't matter anyway. Let's do it. And in reality, life doesn't matter anyway. But we make it a way too serious. We make every little thing the most serious thing ever. Like, oh, this is important. If this opportunity, this doesn't work out, my world's gonna end. I'm gonna die, and just all these other things. And yeah, we should have that freedom to have fun in life and experience fun and just do what we want to do and not take ourselves too seriously. I love that you brought that reminder into this.
I don't know if you even remember. Do you remember that though?
Yeah, I remember.
Okay, you remember that.
Yeah.
But another thing, also reinforcing that same thought into other people. And again, I always try to bring my family, because perfect mode is my life. It's what I live, and I just kind of regurgitate what's going on. But this, anybody that knows me knows my son is a basketball player. Now, you see how I just defined him, and that's just kind of what it is. Well, a couple weeks ago when school started, he was like, well, I ain't gonna say a couple weeks. Last week, he was like, Dad, I want to try out for the football team. And I was like, all right, cool. Now, in my mind, I'm like, we haven't practiced no football. Now, this is me worrying about the outcome more than anything, right? And he was just like, I'm gonna try out for it. I was like, okay, cool. So he goes and tries out for the football team last week, which was on Tuesday. And oh no, it was on Monday. And after when I picked him up from school that day, I was like, say, how the tryouts going? He said, I think it went good. He said, I caught, majority of my balls. I think I dropped 2 balls. And he said, I guess he was watching. He's like, I think some of the other kids dropped about the same amount of balls as me. And I was like, okay, cool. And I was like, well, how many kids tried out? And he said 40. And I said, how many make the team? And he said 19. But 15 of the spots are already taken up because of returning players. And I was like, okay, cool. And so what I was able to say in that moment was, what makes life interesting is trying, right? And I could live with you not making the team, but I cannot live without you not trying. And then I went on to tell him a story about me trying something that's currently going on in my life that I won't speak on yet, but that I said, I don't care what the outcome of it is. I'm just going to see what they say, right? And I was like, but the thing that you can hang your hat on is that you went out there, you had fun, and regardless of what goes on, you tried your best. He was like, yeah, cool. And then lo and behold, guess what? He made the team. He played his first football games this weekend. And he never played, like that before on, organized team like that. So it's pretty cool that himself not being tied to the expectation of what potentially could happen helped him to excel and get to where he wanted to be. And now he's having a ball with it.
Yeah. What's funny, okay, so it's 2 coincidences here. Today on the basketball court, we were on the side, because, people have sons and stuff. And we were talking about, like, they're putting their kids in football. And I was like, man, I'm not going to lie. Football toughened me up. I was soft before football. And then once I played, even though I wasn't a star player, it toughened me up and it made my basketball game better just because I wasn't afraid of contact anymore. And then on my drive home, I was kind of reminiscing because, like, at the end of the game, everybody just started jumping on me, fouling me because we were playing like people that were shorter, and I was just playing bully ball. And I was just thinking about, like, the irony how life flipped. Like, there was a time if people would have did that to me on the court as a kid, I probably would have been crying or something like, foul. Now I embrace it. It's like, yes, you gonna have to foul me, and it's and it is amazing, but it's because, again, you're willing to put yourself in situations that you've never been in before. And it's funny too. So it's like in the not knowing, yourself, which is very interesting how that all works.
Man, something in that, and I can't get to it, but the not knowing, again, I'm a rewind and say, not being tied to an outcome, number one. Like, whether I make it or not, the experience of this is worth it. The experience of whatever it is I'm wanting to do is worth it. If I never got up and got a cup of water, me walking from my bed to the kitchen, feeling the floor, feeling the air, just the whole experience of it is worth it, whether I get water or not. And I think that is a great thing. But also understanding that regardless of the outcome, the experience teaches me how to do it differently next time. And that's whether I get it or not, because the reality of it is, even though my son made the team, he also knows how to be better in another tryout again. He also knows how to approach it from a standpoint of just being free. All of these things matter in helping you know what's really real. Go ahead, Jay.
Yeah. Something you brought up reminds me of a little nugget that Abraham Hicks said on their channel, which was, when you go on vacation, right? After your vacation, you come back home. So you start home, you end home. And if it's about the ending, why go on vacation at all? Why not just stay home? Because you're gonna end up home anyway. But no, like you said, it's about the experience. And it is the experiences that allow us to, again, to know. So, like, how do we know that we're capable of something? We just put ourselves in an experience to try it out, to just see. And again, it's one of those oppositions playing forth. Like, again, the not knowing of something allows you to know yourself, because that's when I really knew me the most, when I was in an environment where I didn't know anything about anything.
So that brings me to the go ahead.
No, because when I think about it, that's the anchor. So, okay, we always lean on what we know, right? So, like, if I'm in my house, I know that, the AC is on this, or the habits. I know the habits of my wife or something. But when you're somewhere you don't know, you are who you lean on because you're the only one that you do know. And so if you want to know yourself, go somewhere, change environments. But yeah, go ahead.
No, so and that's a whole nother thing because I'm gonna tell you meditate too. Like give yourself a little time to know yourself. But to that point, there is a no in this. Like, how did you know? You have to know that you want to experience the experience. You have to know that. You have to know that you want to experience the experience and not be tied to the outcome. I mean, that I think that's the biggest piece of this. And I think that we get lost sometimes not realizing that we want to know what this experience is. We don't even think about that because you're right. We only look at the end result or where we're trying to get to. Even from the standpoint of me being a real estate broker, I know what goal I want to accomplish in this. And that's what I'm always pointed toward. That's the first thing that's on my mind. And the smallest piece of it is the pathway that I got to travel, because the pathway that I got to travel feels like it's the heaviest load to bear. But the funny thing is, when I was at my grandmother's funeral the other day, I was talking to my little cousin, and he didn't come into the church when we were doing the service or whatever. But I got up and I spoke. I cried, and he told me afterwards. He said, "Hey, Troy, I know I didn't come in, but I heard you." And a part of what I was saying was being strong enough to keep on going, right? And he said, "But I've been going through so much." And the words that came out of my mouth, though not my own, is just, that's what makes life interesting. And we forget that. We forget that all the hurdles, all the obstacles that we got to try to overcome are the things that we talk about the most in life. They're the things that we look the least forward to going through, but they're the most prominent things that we love to talk about and we love to use as a tool to uplift others, and not even realizing that it's a tool for you to uplift yourself. Like, those experiences are everything. That's our cash. Go ahead, Jay.
Yeah. And sometimes too, though, we're being reactive to life. So we talk about those hurdles instead of being proactive and talk about the experiences we want to have. Like you said, the opportunities we want to create for ourselves. And if we start talking about them more, like in a way, we talk ourselves into those opportunities, because people hear us talk about it so many times when they need to think of somebody. Oh, Troy can do that. Troy said he's stepping into being a motivational speaker. He's done this. He speaks about it all the time. So of course, if I need a motivational speaker, I'm going to Troy. And sometimes we get caught up in what we've been through because we're being reactive. But now switch that. Like, what you want to experience, or even if you've never experienced, what you want to try to experience. Speak on it.
So, and this is what this makes me think about, because this is something that I got from you. If I say that I want to be a peaceful person, how can I know that I'm peaceful if I haven't experienced anything that helped me to choose peace, right? And so, I don't know what any person is choosing to be their pathway. But what I do know is, whatever it is, and I think that's the biggest part of this, is trying to identify these things as not as a hindrance, changing our perception or the way we perceive the things that we go through, because we look at them from a negative slant. And then that's what in turn dictates the way that we talk about them. See, you don't have to wear those things like a badge of honor. You can use them as a stepping stool to growth, right? And so I think that, if you say, well, hey, my life is crazy because I keep going through this. Or you can say, my life has been a challenge, but it allowed me to be peaceful. And these are the ways that I was able to find peace, because I was able to see what it didn't look like, and I think that's a big part of it. I think that we have to really allow the things that we go through not to the experience has to be everything. That's how Like, I don't know good or bad. We say that all the time. It's no good, it's no bad, it's just things. And if you can look at life then it kind of changes the dynamic of everything. That's how you end up knowing. Go ahead, Jay.
Yeah, and I had an epiphany earlier this week, which kind of plays to this. So I was thinking, like okay, I love wisdom, right? Like I might seek wisdom. I like hearing like very wise thoughts, and I'm like Solomon was a cool character to me in the Bible because he had parables and stuff. So like oftentimes nowadays people say to me, JClay, you're very wise. You're full of wisdom. Everything you say just sounds like it's coming out of a wisdom book. But the truth is, it's not so much that I'm wise, and I'm not denying that either. It's that's the lens and the vibration I hold up. That's the mirror I hold. Because me personally, I think that every conversation is full of wisdom. I think that everyone has something wise to say. And since I'm holding that up, all the person can see as a reflection is the wisdom that's coming out of their mouth. And so they are crediting it to me because they've never heard themselves through that lens, or seen themselves through that lens or through that mirror. And because of it's like that. So I say this to say that what we want to know, if we hold that mirror to everyone and apply that to everyone and say, everyone is this, everyone is great, everyone is peaceful, it changes the dynamic. And so they can step into that peace. And of course they're going to say, oh man, Troy is so peaceful, JClay is so peaceful. But no. We're just holding that lens to allow you to experience it. And so it's really you that you always see anyway. And so if you want, again, so yeah, if you want to know something, apply it to everyone. But go ahead.
So, I've said this many times over and over on Perfect Mode. The thing that changed my life was being able to tell everybody that they're great, because I was able to see the greatness in myself because of that, because I allowed it to be a truth for me as well. But again, to your point and to what you're saying, like about your wisdom, along with you seeing the wisdom in other people, you were able to use that same lens and look at because it's not like you had a life devoid of things that you went through. You went through everything. You went through a lot of stuff like everybody else. And there might be somebody that's gone through the identical things that you've gone through, but the lens by which they're looking at themselves does not allow them to pull the wisdom out that you're being able to re-give to other people. And so a part of even using that lens on other people is using it on yourself, being able to look at yourself and say, hey, this is not bad. This is necessary. This is not negative. This is positive. Like that is a big piece of the puzzle. Like being able to rectify within yourself that it was worth going through for me to see what I see today. And I think that's where we miss it a lot of times, because most people don't look at themselves or others through that lens. You're not gonna look at others through that lens. You're not looking through yourself through that lens either. And so now there's a big domino effect that allows you to stay where you claim to be, which is the bottom. But I know people that don't have anything but the most joyous people in the world. They don't, they look at things from what you would think is a positive standpoint, and you can't even understand it because you're judging when you look at them tell you these things. Like, and so, I think that you wearing that lens on yourself is very important as well. Go ahead, Jay.
Yeah, and those that you said like have nothing, they don't see it that way. They see themselves as having everything. And because they see themselves as having everything, like they really do. And that's a word right there too. Like I don't know if I've ever just seen myself as having everything. And it's like, why not? Why not see others as having everything? And then like, because we might not consciously know this, but we know this. Like we aren't separate from the people and the environment we're in. You know what I mean? Like we think it's normal to have two arms because the majority of people have two arms. And so like, if the majority of people in your eyes have certain qualities, you automatically adopt them because it's like you can't be apart from it. You're in the mix of it, and so it's important to big up everyone in your environment, because now even if you felt inadequate in their presence, it doesn't matter. You're still surrounded by the greatest people ever, so you're gonna be happy. You're like, man, this is my friend, this is my family member, this is whoever, this is the people I get to talk to and interact with on a daily basis. This is my neighbor, this amazing person, and you'll look up and you'll just be happy for no reason because you've imparted that lens on everything. You sowed all those seeds around you that blossomed into this beautiful world.
Look, bro, in my house, it's an ongoing somewhat of a joke. Like every time a birthday comes up for me, everybody in the house is trying to figure out what to get me because I always tell them I thing because I have everything every single time. And even so much so that even I think it was a birthday ago, I think it's my oldest, he said out loud, like, I know you're gonna say all you want is us. So we're not even gonna ask you. And I'm like, yeah, you're right. And so what we always do around my birthday is we might go and do something for everybody. Like we'll, go outside and we jumped on the trampoline one year. One year we just sat down and watched the movie. But it's just we all played the video games together because I always try to reinforce that it doesn't take anything extra for me to be happy. It doesn't take anything extra for you to be happy. I know they're different than me now because they're still kids. They're going to want things. But I hope that in the long run, they're able to look within themselves and say, well, shoot, what I have is enough. You know what I mean? And I mean, everything else is just icing on the cake. But to your point, you're absolutely right, man. Like looking at yourself and saying that I have everything makes you have everything. It allows you the freedom to be happy. It allows you the freedom to see more, really, because sometimes we get tunnel vision when we start feeling like we're missing something and we forget about everything around us and only see that one thing. But go ahead, Jay.
That's a good point you made. I never thought about it like that, where you're living the life you want to live. And so when you're living the life that you want to live, you're happy. It's nothing extra that needs to happen or be brought in. Now, that's not saying that you're denying extra things from coming in because you're happy to accept those too. But when you're living the life that you want to live, like you don't need that extra stuff. So oftentimes the things we buy or the things we get, we think is going to make us happy. Like, oh, I'll be happy if I have that. And it's like, no, be happy first so that no matter what happens, it just adds to it. It's just an addition. It's just a summation, and it's like a ball of light that just grows and grows and grows until you look up. Now everything is light.
And to that point, man, like, man, it's funny. I just saw something on TikTok, funny enough, and it was a guy. He was talking about, you see all these things and you think that they're going to make you happy, but if you feel like you have to get something in addition to make you happy, then you're not really happy anyway. So, I definitely something I keep with me, and I try to show that to my kids. Again, I don't expect the kid to not want anything for their birthday. Trust me. I know I don't not expect the kid to want presents for Christmas. Right. But nonetheless, every time it's asked of me, I always say the same. No, I don't want anything because I have everything. I have everything. And they be like, well, you don't want no new, and I have everything. And then whenever I do get something, I just tell them how happy I am that they've been a part of my life and, those type of things. But again, just the reality of it is, even though I'm trying to teach them something at the same time, it's a sense of freedom for me. You get what I'm saying? Because we all fall victim to the want. We all do. We all fall victim to the want. But whenever you really tell yourself you don't want anything, it's so freeing. It's so, you know what I'm saying? Again, I'm not telling people to go after what they don't want, but not having that expectation, just like having an expectation on the results, is such a freeing thing to allow you to be at peace that you can't even describe. Go ahead, Jay.
So check this out. Like, the want only matters when you're not in that being. So for example, last week I was in my house. I was like, man, I need this. I got to get that. I need to figure out how to like manifest a bunch of money real quick. And so, but there was so much going in my head. I was like, no, forget this. I'm going outside, because outside in nature, I take my walks. I clear my mind. Like, everything is peaceful, beautiful. So the funny thing happened. When I was outside, I got to that peaceful place and I said, oh, here's the time for me to think about how to manifest and stuff. I didn't want to. It's like I dropped down in vibration. I would have to drop down in vibration to do that, because in the space that I was in, I don't need anything. Like, I'm here. I'm where I want to be. I'm where I'm supposed to be right now, and everything is perfect. And after that walk, it just carried on with me. Like, I didn't have a second thought about anything, and I continued being happy.
So I'm finna ask you a question, but how did you know? How did you know? Yeah. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I think that's what we're trying to get to the bottom of. Because again, even myself, and I'm me verbalizing how freeing it is. Like to not want anything. See, you somewhere in our life we've been taught that you have to have everything, like which are literally items or like like it's literally something physical. In order for you have to have everything, this whatever this physical thing is, for you to have everything. But the reality of it is, it's not true. There's somewhere where our wires got crossed and confused us to feel like items or physical things or money was everything when you're everything. And so I think that it's easy as it sounds. It's a tough realization to be able to look at yourself and say that I'm enough, because everything around us says differently. Everybody around us shows differently. And for you to be able to just be okay and say that I'm enough is the biggest thing that you could ever do. But how? Go ahead, Jay.
Yeah, and to answer the how, so in that example, okay, I'm at a place where I think the thoughts I want to think. Like right now, there's no thoughts going on right now. I'm speaking because I'm in line with this. So when I couldn't think, when I was like, how do I do this? The only thing that was clear was I know I need to get outside. So I just knew everything in my being was go outside. I'm outside now. And then once I caught back up to a space where, oh, I can start employing thought again because I'm balanced. I'm feeling how I want to feel. The feeling of thinking about that. Like I can think about whatever I want to think. Those thoughts about trying to manifest something for something else, it brought me down. I felt lower. I felt heavy. And it was like, nah, this is not it. And I knew that it wasn't it. And I just knew based on my feeling. So I just let that go and just continued about my walk, jolly, happy, all this good stuff. And you know from your feeling.
Shouts out to Loretta. She just jumped on and she said, wanting can be a low vibrational experience if we let it. And again, funny enough, when I was younger, number one, again, the want was different. I feel like anyway, it was not the want that I have as an adult. You know what I mean? And obviously enough, this big word that came around when I got old enough for me to hear it enough times was manifesting. Like that was not a word, even though it was a word, it was not a word that was amongst people under a certain age. It just wasn't, right? And I think that weight of, I think it comes with a feeling of having to have. You have to have these things, because if you don't have these things, and again, nobody's going around and saying, you don't got this, you don't got this. Nobody's doing that. You're doing that to yourself. And that weight ends up being low vibration. It ends up being more than you can bear. It ends up being all these different things that are not real, because somewhere down the line, we've made ourselves believe so. And I love your example of you being outside walking, and you said a word to me. You said jolly. You said I just went on and kept being like, you chose to say, you know what? I know there's a lot of things that I could think about, and this is not just you by yourself, because I do the same thing. This is how I find my peace over and over again. It's the reason why I say it to me and my family over and over again, because I have to reassure myself that I am enough. Like it's much of it shouldn't be a job. It's something that we should naturally know. But again, the way that this world is set up, meaning the world that you created for yourself, the people that you're around, the shows that you watch, the books that you read, the pathways you walk, the people that you have uplifted and put at a certain level, like you look up to.
Yeah.
You've created a world in which you feel like you're at a deficit. And the reality of it is, all of those things are revolving around you. And that's what we forget. Go ahead, Jay.
Check this out about that want. You said want was something different as a kid. It was. It was more about wonder. Like, I wonder what it would be like to experience this. I wonder what it'd be like to do this, or I wonder what it'd be like to have this. Like it wasn't, like you said, it wasn't a have to have. And what's cool about it with me and music, when I make a song, I wonder what kind of song I can make to this beat to make it positive. I wonder if I can make this song about this and where people can understand it. Like there's a wonder coming from it. It's still a want. Like I want this song to be fire, but it's not even about that. It's about the creation, the experiment, the experience. It's like, and we let our curiosity take us where the outcome does not matter. It doesn't matter because it's from a place of wonder, but want can only be satisfied by having or feeling you have the object that you want or desire.
Look, bro, just this year, well, I'm not even gonna say just this year. In my life, I've experienced what I feel like are some of the most amazing things, right? Now, the cool part is these things that I've experienced, I felt like I wanted to experience them. So what I'm saying is, as an example, we have, we just went to Copa America this summer where we got to go watch the big soccer tournaments at AT&T Stadium, 50-yard line, pretty much the front row. Most amazing experience, right? Now, you had asked me before if I wanted to do that. Yeah, I want to do that. It costs a lot, all of these different things. I would want to do it, right? Now, this is the thing that I realized while I was there. I didn't want to be there. I didn't want to be there. Right now, I'm not saying I'm not grateful for the opportunity to be there. That's the difference. Now, the thing that made it the most amazing experience for me was the people that I was with. It wasn't even what I thought I wanted to go for. Now, again, I wanted to go there because it's cool to sit on the 50-yard line. It's cool to be down on the front row. And now I can tell everybody about that, right? But the reality of it is, if you take the 50-yard line away, you put me back up in the top seats, and I get to have all those same people there, I still gonna feel the exact same way I felt today. And so that's what I'm saying. We've created and crafted a world to blind us to what's really real. And I already have these people because I put them there. I already have, all the things that I want, but I've put all of these stipulations on it in order to make it or validate it. And that's where I'm telling you we lose touch. Go ahead, Jay.
Right. And what you touched on is like a trick that I've seen that people play on themselves where so sometimes even at home, like you'll be with the people that you love, the people that you like to be with most of the time, but you get clouded by the other things you have to do. Oh, we got to do this, so this is limited. You can't be fully present. But like when you go to an event like that, you accept that this is where I'm supposed to be. This is the it that I have to do. So your guard is let down. The same thing on vacation. But if you can remove that, I have to do something, I have to, you can really just sit in that experience and really be as happy as you can be no matter what. And shout out to Didi Ingram show. He said, it has been a while since I've been able to listen to you live. I am enjoying the show. How do you know is the question. My question is, when you know something, have you talked yourself out of believing that it is true? Ooh.
I think to answer that question, I think that's a big part of our life. That's the reason why we have a lack of confidence in a lot of things, because one of the things that you taught from the time you were born is anything is possible. And then from that point forward, for the rest of your life, you figure out how everything is impossible. Like you put all of these things in place to show you how things are not possible or how they cannot be done, even though you know that it's possible. Using you as an example, Unc, before I was ever able to join a radio show, I thought it was impossible to be on a radio show because everything around me told me that there was a pathway that I couldn't travel in order to get there. And then one day you said, yeah, you can come up here and do this radio show with me. And it became real. Now, I could have went and started a radio show before that, but for whatever reason, I talked myself out of it. It's the same thing about this podcast. Before me and JClay started this podcast, opposition was all over us. We had all kind of reasons why we shouldn't have, couldn't have. And the reality of it is, whether me and him spoke about it or not, we talk to ourselves about it. I talk to myself and be like, man, we need this, we don't got this, all of these different things. And then at some point we say, you know what? Throw caution to the wind. I'm just gonna go do it. And I think that's a big part of all of our lives. And I'm using, radio and podcasts as an example because I've been able to overcome that. But it doesn't mean that I've overcame it in every other aspect of my life, which is the reason why I love doing this show, because just this realization, again, me using the example of going to Copa America, and that's just one example. There's been plenty of places that I was at or that I went to that I thought I was supposed to be there for another reason, and then I realized that the reason I'm here was because of something totally different, and the reason why I feel the way that I feel is because of something totally different. Is important for us to understand that you are enough. You are enough, and that's all it is to it. Go ahead, Jay.
Yeah, and to this question, using the same example as far as this, like I know that we would have great conversations. That we would touch on things that people would want to hear about, want to think about, want to just be put on their mind. But I did talk myself out of it. I was like, I don't got the budget. I don't know when we're gonna do it. Who gonna listen? We got to try to figure out how to get an audience. Like I talked myself out of it, and then Troy was like, let's just do it. And I was like, you know what? Why not? It's the trying a new experience. I don't know anything about this, so let's just see what happened. If it bombed, it bombed. Nobody probably saw it anyway. We could delete it, but it wasn't. It was a great thing, and again, I got to know myself more by not knowing anything about this experience.
And I want to touch on the word that you said. If it bombs, it bombs. Specifically, because that's the same way I felt too. And that again, that's a part of talking yourself out of it. And that's why I go back to saying not being tied to the outcome, right? It doesn't matter if it bombs or not. It shouldn't even be a part of the conversation. The reality of it is there's an experience that I want to experience. Regardless of the outcome, I'm happy experience. That's how I know, because what what I should know is I want the experience. That's the no. That's what we're trying to touch on. But go ahead, Jay.
Yeah. No, it's true. It's all about the experience, and if we can remember that for everything, like we can let our curiosity lead us, our joy, and just that thought. Like again, I wonder. We were wondering toward that experience that we want to experience, and that's all we did as kids. Like, ooh, what's this shiny thing? Oh, it's keys. I wonder what it feels like to hide them from my parents or something. Like it's just all these kind of things. But go ahead.
Look, I'm gonna say this because I know we're at the end of the show, right? One thing, and this is me being a father. One thing that I've heard multiple people say in my life, including myself, is when I don't know how to be a father. I don't know what it's going to be like when I have kids, right? Like there is a blank slate, whether you've been a kid or not, which we've all been, right? And the reality of it is walking into that unknown has been the greatest experience of my life. Like I didn't know anything about how to do it, but it's the greatest experience of my life. And the reality of it is once you open yourself up to things, and not be tied to the outcome, number one, allow yourself to know that you are enough. I didn't have to have a book. I have enough intuition. I have enough within me to know that everything is going to be all right, because everything has been all right up until this point that I'm in right now. And so why would I base it on anything else? But I know we at our point, Jay, and I'm just going to say, you got to go
But
ahead.
let me say this one thing about just the power of knowing that we possess. If anybody's doubting their power of knowing, because when you said that about like people don't know how to be a father or a kid or whatever, there comes a point where even as a kid, the things your siblings do or your parents do might be weird to you. But it's like, how can it be weird if this is the environment I grew up in? They're really my basis of all I know. So if anything, this should be the norm and everything else is weird. But no, because you have your own sense of knowing that you stand on, and you're like, no, this is how life should be. This is how it should be. So yeah, trust that in yourself because it's you.
And I just want to end by telling y'all, man, we're grateful for everybody that joined us today. Just know that you are perfect. This is kind of where we always come full circle. And if I can't leave you with anything on the show was, when we talk, how do you know, is knowing yourself. take your, JClay said, isolate yourself. We always, point back to meditation. But just being able to look at yourself and say that I have it all. I do have it all. And everything else is just icing on the cake. If I don't get anything else, and I'm talking about physical things that are not necessarily you are enough. You provide more to the world than you could ever imagine, even though you might not give yourself the credit that you're supposed to be giving yourself. And that's what you should know. And that'll open up way more doors than you can ever imagine. And like I said, you are perfect. The only reason you would think differently is if you looking at the person next to you saying you're not them, but guess what? You are you. And Jay, you can take us out.
Yeah, appreciate y'all again rocking with us. Hit the share button, like, subscribe, share with people you know that need to know themselves or realize how much they actually know about themselves. And catch us every Sunday, 12 noon Central Time, U.S. time. And just remember, you're a perfect creation made by a perfect creator, so you might as well accept your perfection and enter perfect mode.
Yeah.
If I reminded you that you are perfect, would you argue me down or step into your perfection? Welcome to Perfect Mode, where there are no excuses, no expectations, and we explore the world without limitations. I'm JClay, rapper, the spiritual teacher, with my co-host Troy Washington, your friendly neighborhood realtor. Let's be real, so let's be perfect.
Perfect.
Everything